Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Destina. This is Spiritually Bougie Astrology, and we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming new moon in Cancer, but we're not just going to take a look at the new moon. We're also going to take a look at the days leading up to the new moon, because I feel like some of the energy that's leading up to the new moon is a big part of what activates in the new moon. And the thing about this new moon is it's not just activating one house for us. This new moon is very much activating a new cycle. If you hear sounds in the background, that is because Puppy is right here. He's very, very attached right now. He is tired of Mommy always just talking into his screen, so I apologize. Okay, so in the days leading up to the new moon. Now, again, the new moon is going to perfect midday, July 17th. That is going to be Monday, but there are a few transits that lead us into Monday. And they're the ones that are going to happen, of course, over the weekend. One of those transits in particular is still in effect Monday morning. It actually perfects Monday morning. And whenever you guys listen to the week ahead forecast, like, you'll hear exactly what I'm talking about in that regard. I don't go too deep into the new moon on this one, on that one, because I'm doing this one. There you go. So a couple of transits going into this weekend. One, the sun is in Cancer. It's Cancer season, of course. And we have Uranus making a sextile to the sun. This is happening while the moon is in Gemini. Now, I'm bringing up the moon in Gemini because obviously we're going into a new moon in Cancer, but I look at what one part of the moon in Gemini is doing before the new moon that kind of has a telltale sign as to where some of the energies are going to lead next week. And if you don't necessarily understand the full bridge effect of everything, because it's a bridge, this weekend's energy, then one might not feel like it's tied to the other, but in a lot of ways it is. Now, Cancer itself is a sign about nurturing. It's a sign about care. It's a sign that has to do with abundance and bringing life. Cancer represents mothers. Cancer represents the matrons of the family, feminine energy. And a lot of what's going to be coming through is very much going to be tied to that feminine, nurturing, caring level of energy. Now, later in this video, I'll of course go over it based off of Ascendant and kind of go into what that's going to lead into. But we're definitely making a turn over the course of the weekend and next week. And later on, you guys will see the week ahead forecast and you'll see what I'm talking about into next week. Oh. In the days leading up to this new moon, there is a haze. There is a fog. There is a cloudiness. There is something that starts to activate and set in for a lot of people. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring up the screen because I have this on Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, of course, is July 15th. The way I have it on the screen right now, I have it July 15th at 7:32 a.m. Central Standard Time because that's where I'm at, is Central Time. At this point in the sky, Uranus and the sun, they've already had their sextile, but it's still very activated. Where is Uranus? In Venus's sign. What is Venus doing? Spinning, spiraling, overthinking, overprocessing, overdoing, getting a little overwhelmed. Now, Uranus in the sun sign, or Uranus in Venus's sign, making the sextile to the sun, it's almost like enlightening someone and they're not expecting it. That's the unexpected energy of Uranus. It's filling somebody in. It's bringing somebody up to speed. It's telling somebody how energy is starting to affect you. And that energy is layered with the fact that the moon is in this square to Neptune and the moon is in this sextile to Venus. Venus and Neptune, they're not making a direct connection at all. Venus is actually very much obstructed from Neptune's gaze. The moon being in a place where it can reach both Venus and Neptune makes me think that there is an understanding, there is an inkling, there is a foreshadowing to what's about to come through over the next few days. Now, the thing about Neptune's energy is sometimes it's nostalgic. It's bringing up that fun, joy-like energy, the kid energy, the stuff that used to make us happy as a child. And we start to have these nostalgic conversations and talk about how we would like to do it again, like to do this more, like to revisit something. And this is a very light-hearted way for this to go. Lighthearted. Another way this can be is informing someone about how their energy affected you. Now, the thing about Neptune is it's never easily understandable, and Neptune being retrograde, he's not necessarily imposing his will on the moon. It's more along the lines of it's reflective. And it's talking about how something is affecting it. So it's like telling someone how their actions made us feel, how their attitude made us feel, made us think things were going, led us to believe something else, led us to think something else, led us to think we were forgotten, that we were being overlooked, that we were being objectified, that we weren't being who we should be. It's almost like a gaslighting energy, but it's informing somebody like, look, you were acting this way and it made me feel another. It made me feel used. It made me feel annoyed. It made me feel unloved. Your actions made me feel this way. In some ways, that can lead to a bit of a turnaround. In other ways, given how much pressure is going on both Venus and Pluto, and I've said this to people in a couple different episodes and their private readings, I've been saying this for a while, because these two areas of the chart are about to be so pressurized, Venus spinning and Pluto about to be getting squared by the node, so we have this energy coming through. Part of this right here could be telling somebody how we feel bodily. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I can't sleep. I can't eat. And if I do eat, it's the bad stuff. Like I never want a meal. I just want all these little things. I don't know why. I don't want to get out of bed. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I feel like everything's coming back to the surface. I feel like every bad memory, every horrible thing that he put me through, going off triggers now, I feel like all of this stuff is just coming back to the surface. I feel like my body is weighted. Now, Neptune is in a water sign. The new moon will be in a water sign. Fluids. There can be fluid-like things that start to become very retentive on the body, like people retaining water. Having flare-ups in their body that are fluid related. That can be a part of this energy. Not something that's easily understandable. Like you feel fatigued and you feel like something's wrong, but your body is so inflamed you can't actually say exactly what's wrong. And it can be, Neptune square to the moon can be, I'm just not feeling well. I've been feeling dizzy. I don't like the way my blood pressure is. I don't like the way this is feeling. I don't like the way that I'm thinking about things. I don't like this. Whatever it is. And what that can be is a foreshadowing of what happens next week. Because this new moon in Cancer is going to also be in a trine to Neptune. So I feel like this moment here, when the moon is making the connection to Neptune and making this connection to Venus, it is whatever is going on this weekend is foreshadowing parts of the week that's going to follow the new moon. It's foreshadowing, it's letting us know, showing us the area that's being pressurized, showing us the area that's going to be needing to turn around, showing us a perspective. But it's one side of the perspective, it's not the full perspective. And whatever it's showing us is only one side because of the indirectness of Venus spinning in one area of the chart and Pluto being pressurized by the nodes in the other. What we're going to see is that this is indirectly connected to this, and it takes a few days to understand the indirect action. Well, the reason you're feeling so bad is because your blood pressure is through the roof. The reason you're feeling so fatigued is you've only been eating junk food and your blood sugar is shooting up because you're not actually eating anything that's going to be healthy for you. You've been taking in too much sodium. You've been working outside too much, and now you're taking on heat exhaustion. There's something here that is very much about the senses and sensory for a lot of people. Not everybody. That's why we're going to do it based off sign here in a little bit. But there are little transits over the weekend leading into the new moon that feel like a precursor. It feels like planting the seed. It feels like the foreshadowing to the events that are going to follow the new moon. Venus is spinning. Venus is literally a week from her turnaround. When the moon is in this sextile to Venus, it is 1 week, 7 days until Venus turns retrograde. So that pressurized energy is very much here. She's spinning. She's about to be in the exact same place for over 2 weeks. You can only spin for so long. We did that as kids, spin and spin and spin. Whenever we would stop, we felt drunk, we fell over, we laughed, we cried, whatever it was, because sometimes when we fell over, we fell off of something because kids do ridiculous things. Some of us are still a kid at heart. This spinning energy of Venus is going to have a tip effect. Sometimes whenever we were spinning as kids, somebody would try to interrupt our spinning. And some parts of this new moon is going to be the interruption to the spinning. Interruptions don't always have to be bad, because maybe it's getting light. Maybe it's showing the perspective. Maybe it's rounding out whatever is going on in the energy. It's taking a moment to stop or slow down or alter the course. Sometimes we're spinning in the wrong direction. Sometimes we're so focused on this, we realize that this isn't where we should have been focused at all. It's actually this the whole time, this other thing. I don't know why I'm always so itchy. I don't know why I'm breaking out so much. Maybe we should do a food allergy test. And come to find out, you've been regularly eating a food that you're allergic to. That's a fun one because I've done that myself. Did that for my entire life. There is something this weekend that gives us the foreshadowing, the foresight, the idea of where things are going to come. Now, the next day, what's going to happen is that Jupiter starts its square to Mercury. Now, it's not actually perfecting until first thing Monday morning, but it's going to start Sunday evening. And the thing is it's not just starting Sunday evening. There's also Jupiter sextile to the moon that's going to happen in the earlier parts of the day. And if you listen to the week ahead forecast for last week, so going into like July 16th, I said that for a lot of people, this is stating an intention. It's stating like, we're going to do that tomorrow. I will start that tomorrow. If you still feel bad tomorrow, we're going to go to the doctor tomorrow. I'll call the doctor tomorrow. We'll do this. We set a future intention in the energy. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because this moon is sextile to Jupiter while Jupiter's entering the square to Mercury. The day before, when the moon was square Neptune, the moon was in Mercury's sign. Neptune was in Jupiter's sign. Yes, Pisces is ruled by Neptune too. I know that. That's not where I'm going for this part of the conversation. We're just going to say it this way. Saturday morning, Neptune square the moon. Neptune's in Jupiter's sign. The moon was in Mercury's sign. Sunday morning, we start Jupiter's actual square to Mercury. This is important because we're going to start next week with that new moon square, with that Jupiter square Mercury. We will end next week with Uranus's square to Mercury. And the thing about that is both Jupiter and Uranus are in Venus's signs squaring Mercury. One happens before the retrograde begins, the other happens after the retrograde begins. Whatever is going on with the squares to Mercury directly impact Venus's turnaround. And that starts, Mercury square to Jupiter, starts on Monday during the new moon. Bah. Sorry, guys. Okay. Yeah, here we are, July 17th. This is the day of the new moon. Jupiter and Mercury are almost exact. So I've got this right now on the screen. I've got it on July 17th, 2023 at 7:32 a.m. Central Standard Time. Jupiter is at 11 degrees and 53 minutes, and it is squaring Mercury at 11 degrees and 52 minutes. There it is. Here's the action. Here's the energy. Here's what's going on. There is the seed, there is the message, there is the decision, there's the calling of the doctor, there's getting the confirmation, it's showing up for the new job, it's doing something, the future intention that has been stated. If you met somebody new over the weekend, then this is, can I call you? Can I text you? And this is getting up the gumption to send the text. There can be positive ways for this energy to go through this week too. It's still going to create a pressure and transformation and the need to change some kind of area in the chart. But how do I want to say this? It doesn't always have to be bad. There can be positive inclinations to this week. And it really comes down to the rising sign and what's being activated in everybody's chart. Because for some people, I do like this energy. For other people, I don't really like this energy. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this by hour. We're going to get the Ascendant into Aries. I'm going to start with Aries. Yep. And then we're going to kind of go from there. So for those that have never had a reading from me before or haven't necessarily paid attention to the episodes before, I read everything from a whole house system. This isn't actually anything that was taught to me. It was something that I've done my entire life based off of the way things laid in my natal chart. That's literally why I did it. So I read everything from a whole house system. I don't necessarily care if your ascendant is at 2 degrees or 29 degrees, whatever it is. As far as I'm concerned, wherever your ascendant is, that entire sign is your first house. And now every zodiac sign that follows is now tied to the next numerical house. So for Aries and Aries rising, this is going to be a new moon in your 4th house of home life, family, roots, ancestry, the skeletons in the closet, the things that we don't necessarily show everybody because we only do them at home. Mothers and matrons, the feminine energy tied to our home life. This is the new moon in Cancer. Now, Aries, where is your chart ruler? Mars is right here in your 6th house of health. There can be something in your health, in someone else's health, in the routine at work that gets disrupted. Maybe not necessarily during the new moon, but in the days that are going to follow. It can be very much tied to the matrons, to your home life, to your family. There can be something in regards to other people's health that disrupts. There can be something in your health that creates a disruption, that makes us stay home a little bit more, that makes us put more focus on the family, that makes us put more focus on our mom, on moms in general, matrons of the family. It can be your sister, it can be aunt, those types of things. But we need to put a energetic focus on one area. Mars is in the 6th house. Again, this can do with health, but this can also have to do with work and routine, how you're caring for yourself and caring for other people. Some of you might need to look at doing certain types of routine, workout routines. I'm so sorry. I could not think of that word all of a sudden. But you don't necessarily like going to the gym. You don't necessarily want to go out to the gym. You want to be able to do something at home. You try to create a new routine at home. Something that's going to impact your health, something that's going to give you wellness and balance, and something that's going to bring you a little bit of joy and a little bit of happiness. I personally do yoga in my living room at least once a day. Sometimes it's 2 to 3 times a day. I got sciatica, but my hips hurt a lot. So that can be a very mundane way of doing something. Putting on the, I want to say a specific brand, but I'm not going to say, I'm sorry, YouTube video of just like different yoga things and things that you can do, Pilates, something that is going to help you in your health, help you in your routine, and put a little bit more focus and allow for energies to be at home with your family. Some of you might be going through disruptions with children. I'm looking at the fact that this is a new moon in your 4th house of home life, and family. Mars is in the 6th. The 6th ruler is Mercury, and Mercury is in that 5th house of children. There can be something disruptive around kids and their health and their wellness and their well-being, considering Jupiter is squaring Mercury. Maybe the shakeup in the routine is that they're going to have to start going to a babysitter. They're going to have to start having additional care. They're going to have to start having something that's going to cost you money, because Jupiter squared Mercury is from your 2nd house to your 5th house. Something might happen that you don't have a babysitter this week. Maybe they've got something going on in their personal life and you got to stay home a little bit more and do some extra things with the kids. And when you're doing the extra things with the kids, that means you're probably going to be spending a little bit of money. I'm like, okay, you tear up the house one more time, I'm going to strangle all of you. So we're going to go to the water park today. Water park costs money, depending on where you're going. Sometimes small local pool might be just, $20-30, depending on how many kids we got. But if we're going to like a big water park, it can cost you anywhere between $50 to $100. Like it can be a much higher number. So putting all of that in perspective, the disruption in your routine, the disruption in another person's routine can create disruption in your routine. This can have to do with family and needing to put more time at home, do more things at home, realizing we have unfinished projects at home that are impacting everybody else's routine. And now you must disrupt everybody else's routine to finish them. Some of you might be having to deal with health. It doesn't necessarily have to be yours. It can also have to do with an elder. Now, I say that in particular because Mars is coming into this opposition to Saturn. This is authority figures, this is government, this is higher experts, people that we have respect for. This can have to do with judges and lawyers. And Mars in this opposition can be a disruption in this area, something that disrupts your routine based off of an authority figure, based off of somebody else's dealing with an authority figure. It doesn't always have to be yours. Getting that call from the cops we don't necessarily want to deal with. Getting a call from a lawyer that we're not anticipating, getting served papers while at work. That can be part of this energy. Doesn't necessarily have to happen on the new moon. It can happen in the days following the new moon. Listen to that week ahead forecast. I'm telling you, it's going to help a lot. Mars is opposition to Saturn can also have to do with the disruption in your routine based off of the health and the welfare of an elder. Something has impacted them, pressure in this area. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and right after this new moon perfects, the nodes are going to change signs. The north node is going to go into your first house. The south node is going to go into your seventh house. And you're going to see something come through that starts to put pressure either on your career or on your public image. And I do feel like there's going to be an image thing for a lot of Aries risings, because you're going to have the north node in your first house of you, your body, your mind, your ego, while Pluto in the 10th is squaring those nodes, is getting squared by those nodes. You can have a pressurized situation come through that changes who you are as a person, changes your identity in this world. Some of you could be launching a business. That's not a terrible thing. Some of you can lose a loved one this week, and all of a sudden you're an only child. All of a sudden your mom's not there anymore. So your image is not the same. You don't have that same level of reliance anymore. You don't have that same connection anymore. But it can be positive too. There is both negative and positive inclinations. Some of you are just going to be spending the week with the kids, and I really hope that's the case for a lot of you. Others, you're going to be dealing with the shift that is going to make you level up as an individual. And this level up energy is not specific to the new moon. It's going to be specific actually to the next 18-month cycle with the north node going through your first. And it is going to allow for your image in this world to be able to adjust and change. And the first part of the adjustment has a heaviness to it, and I can't let that go. Like it's so dominantly noticeable to me that I see that some people are going to initially deal with hardship or release or purging or loss before they get the level ups. But I feel like in this regard, a lot more people are just going to be dealing with disruptions. Disruption in the routine, disruptions at home, disruptions at work, disruptions around the kids. But it doesn't all have to be negative. I do like Jupiter square to Mercury during this new moon for you guys in a way to like impose some luck. That can be a good way for this to perfect as well. Okay. For Taurus and Taurus rising, the new moon in Cancer is in your third house. Communication, branding, early education, things that you've known since your childhood. Who do you spend your childhood with? You spend it with your siblings. Siblings can be a part of the third house. Travel can be a part of the third house. Road trips, wanting to take a vacation, wanting to do something, wanting to go somewhere we haven't been before. And the thing is with this energy for Taurus risings, I like it for those that actually do get to travel. If they can actually harness the ability to get out and go do something and do the traveling. Because I feel like this new moon and the way this week kind of continues is that we can get a very interesting lesson, whether that is through a spiritual means, whether that is through a physical means. There is something here that can be very spiritual for the Taurus risings. If we're not doing the travel, and we're not getting to the spiritual quest, I'm just making a joke now, then what we can also have to deal with is talking with, in the week following the new moon, with institutions, with higher authority, with gurus, with teachers, with spiritual leaders, with doctors, with medical practitioners, with your shaman, with these experts that aren't necessarily the authority figure, but they are more compassionate. They usually offer more hope. They have the ability to help transform the way you're seeing something. It allows for you to recognize certain things in other people. And at the same time, this is going to have an effect on your family. This new moon, of course, brings in the changing of the signs, the changing of the nodes going from one sign to the other. So the North Node is about to leave your first house and go into your 12th. This happens after the new moon perfects. The North Node going through the 12th house, and I have done a video for the nodes. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I do suggest checking that out. The North Node going through Aries is going to start to show you what's been going on behind your back. It's going to give you closure. It's going to provide certain things, and you're going to see a lot of karma being served. Now, in some aspects, this karma is going to be around love, old love interest, new love interest. And I say that because Mars is in your 5th house. Some of this is also going to have to do around kids. You can learn something from your children, from another person about your children. You can have in a moment where you're going out for a birthday party and all of a sudden you're seeing how your child is interacting with like their friends, the child of your friend, and you can see a disruption. You can see something here, like bullying can be a real mundane way to see how some of this is going to come through, and it allows for a new lesson in communication with your own child. It can also be another type of lesson, not necessarily communication, but like teaching them to recognize certain patterns. That's one thing that we don't necessarily teach our kids from a young age, is what patterns can look like in the real world. But it could be a very useful thing for them to learn. Jupiter square to Mercury before the new moon perfects is Jupiter in your 1st, talking to a family member, Mercury in the 4th, telling them the plan, telling them the goals, telling them what we're wanting to do, telling them that we're going to go stay at grandma's house, but they might not necessarily want to stay at grandma's house. They might just, I want to stay here with my friends. I don't want to go. I don't want to go on vacation. I don't want to go somewhere else. I don't want to do this. Why do I gotta go? Because you do. Now, the first part of going to grandma's house might be a little rough. They could be stubborn and not want to, play along. But then once they get there, they can learn that grandma's got neighbors. Those neighbors got kids. There's a neighborhood pool. Grandma's pretty cool. Not every grandma's terrible. My grandma was one of my best friends. We did so much crap together. And over time, I became the bad influence. I'll be honest about that. So, there can be things that are both disruptive, but not horrible. I wouldn't be surprised if anyone is going on the vacation though, or going on a road trip or going somewhere. I do feel like there can be those visits to grandma's house that are really helpful, at least for the kids. Okay. This can also result in a turnaround in family. Things that disrupt memories from your childhood, things that bring up old memories from the past. Given that Venus is about to turn retrograde in that 4th house of home life, and family, Mercury is there too, and Mars is going through Mercury's sign. This can mean that the turnaround is going back over things from the past that bring things back up from your childhood. Having those old memories coming back through. If you go to grandma's house, but you haven't been to grandma's house in a long time, there can be those weird moments of nostalgia that can be fun. Like you go in the room, it's like, oh my God, my room looks like a time capsule. It hasn't changed. I haven't been here in 20 years. But at the same time, as you start going through those old nostalgic things, you also remember other things. And maybe you remember why you haven't been there in 20 years. Maybe you're having to explain to your kids why you haven't been there in 20 years. There might be something that kind of gut checks you and makes you think about your decisions, what disrupted and what happened in your childhood, but also how your decisions from that timeline have now impacted your kids. And maybe that's a part of the turnaround. That wasn't in my notes. I literally just picked that last part up. So I apologize. I don't apologize. Somebody needed to hear that. Anyways. For Geminis and Gemini risings, this is going to be a new moon in your second house of money. In the days before, when the moon was being squared by Neptune in your 10th house, there could have been an old opportunity that came through, an old idea that came back to the surface, something that can lead to financial gains, that can lead to new prospects, that can lead to a new market, that can lead to a new message in your branding. Now, if you're taking on extra shifts at work, if you're taking on that new position, if you're taking on this new opportunity that can be financially helpful for you, what it can also mean is that it disrupts your time at home. Mars is going through your 4th house of home life, and family. Mercury rules your 4th. Mercury rules you. It is your chart ruler. You could be making decisions right now with one inflated way of looking at things, unbeknownst that it's going to cause an issue somewhere else, that it's going to take your attention away from something else. Like, we only saw the positive and we didn't think of the real world effect. Oh, I'm going to take this position and I'm going to be able to travel. That means you ain't going to be home. That means who's going to help me with the kids? That means we need another babysitter. Maybe we have to take on additional charges and additional finances. Yes, we got this opportunity to do something new in our job, but it's still going to cost us money because we're looking at this opportunity. We're trying to take something forward. There are going to be disruptions at home. Jupiter square to Mercury during this new moon can also mean the disruption at home is coming from the past. A past situation, a past person, something coming up to the surface, something rumbling back up again, and we're having to deal with something all over again. Whether it has to do with finances, whether it has to do with our decision making, whether it has to do with secrets. Gemini risings, a lot of you made some very detrimental decisions last year during that Mars retrograde, and you are still dealing with the aftermath. You are still dealing with the consequences of those decisions. Some of you are sacrificing parts of yourself. Some of you are doing some things for the last time. Some of you are getting very big karmic lessons with Jupiter in your 12th. Now, Jupiter as a whole actually does very, very well in the 12th. But that doesn't mean that there isn't still things that you don't know the full repercussion of. Good, bad, or ugly. Consequences are still consequences. You can have positive consequences. We don't usually use that word for positive. That's why people hear consequences and they go to the negative. But the thing is, it's like a consequence is a consequence. And parts of this energy can also be the consequences of previous decisions and previous actions and previous ideas. You might have made a promise to work through a relationship, work through your problems, work through certain things. And what you're going to find very, very soon is that your plan and your goal isn't necessarily everybody's goal. And sometimes we get told something or we tell somebody something knowing that we're only halfway in. We're not fully developed. We're not fully submerged. We're not fully in this area. We're partially there. We weren't ready when we agreed, so we just kind of blindly agreed. Maybe we didn't realize we weren't ready yet. But there was something that we have done in the past that can come back around. There can be somebody from the past that can come back around. And it's going to, again, create disruptions at home, create disruptions within the family. You might be having to explain to kids past decisions. You might be explaining to a lover your past indiscretions and having to come clean about a few things. And coming clean about those things can again lead to disruptions at home and lead to disruptions in regards to your future. But there is going to be an effect that results in disruptions following this new moon. Okay. Moving this along, we are going to be looking at Cancer and new moon in your first house, Cancer risings. Oh, okay. Get your popcorn, get the seats out, and get ready for a few things. You are starting something new. You are about to take on a whole new path in your career. You're going to have a whole new avenue of things coming through because you've already been planting the seeds for the last year. You are starting something. You are changing something in your body. You're changing something in your routine. You're changing your way of doing things. You're changing the way that you think about things. You are making changes, and they might not seem like it right now, but they're very, very much going to have a long-term effect. Now, in the days up to this new moon, whenever Neptune was squaring the moon in Mercury sign in Gemini in your 12th house, what you could have learned either from an individual, from like a TikTok, from a TED Talk, from something online, you might learn some new information that you weren't privy to in the past that kind of hits the light bulb energy and makes you realize, oh, I could probably do that too. I can incorporate that too. I can do that too. I can make that work. I can totally work out at home. That's not going to be a problem. I spend more time at home than I do in the office. The only place I spend more time in besides my home or the office is the car. So I can make this work. There's something, I really like this for Cancer risings because I feel like there's like a creation energy for you guys. You're not just taking new steps into your career, but you're also trying to manifest something. You're really bringing something into flourishing. This isn't just going to be something that helps you, but it's also going to be something that it directly impacts your clients, your customers, your friends, the people you choose to do business with, the people that you share your time with, but it's also going to impact your pocketbook. Because after the new moon square to Mercury in Gemini, I said that all wrong. Neptune square to the moon in Gemini. After that, the new moon perfects, and then we enter that Mercury squared from Jupiter. You might be spending money to make money. You might be putting in the down payment towards a office rental space. You might be filing the LLC and the licenses and everything else that is going to be the whole next chapter of your career. You might be doing the application for your broker's test, for your next licensure. You might be doing, I know it's the wrong time of year, but I'm still going to use this as an example, the thesis, the presentation that lands you the account of a lifetime, or lands you the account that leads to all of the other ones. Like you've been doing all of this work and you're trying to put everything together. You've made the pitch. They're willing to sign the contract, but their network base is so big that it equals returns for you. It equals more customers for you. You now have an extra ledge in your networking. And what you're going to see in the week following the new moon is how much this decision is going to impact the way that you see other people, the way that you're going to interact with other people, the way that you're doing certain things, the message that you present, the way that you present yourself. And the thing is, this isn't necessarily going to be a bad thing. In a lot of ways, whenever you tell somebody else this idea, when you present everything that's going to happen, when you let people in on the secret, you're going to see the support. having the nodes go into your 4th and your 10th, but squaring Pluto in the 7th, what you're going to see is the pressure or the shift in the adjustment in another. Now, in big picture, that has a lot of positive inclination, but sometimes the layering is not just the big picture. Sometimes it has to do with one other person. You could decide that you're going to do something for yourself. You're going to do this new thing for yourself. You're going to take new steps in career, and it takes a few days before you, even if you tell them immediately, it might take them a few days, your partner, your significant other, whoever else you're telling, it might take them a few days to fully understand what's going on. And they might have one idea. They might see it and understand it in one way, but then they're going to see the full light later on, and it can actually make them scared. It can make them frustrated. It can make them very proud in seeing your transformation, but it can also be the trigger energy also, because it's still Pluto. So understand that as you're working through the motions and trying to get things put together, and as you're starting to feel certain things, it can start to change you. Now, another way that this can play out with Neptune in that trine to the sun throughout the week is you can also start a new medication. Taking some type of new medicine that slowly starts to turn things around for you. If you've been dealing with the melancholy and you've been dealing with anxiety and depression over the last year, you might just find that right medicine, whether it's true medicinal through a normal doctor and everything else, or if it's like alternative medicine. So you found a new root or herb or something like that that helps you. I'm a huge fan of mushrooms. Lion's mane mushroom, turkey tail, all of those different things. So mushrooms, gourmet mushrooms, and all the others. So you could do something like that, take on a new medicine, take on a new herb that starts to pick up your energy, that starts to make you feel a little better, that starts to make you function a little bit better. And it might take a few days before you start to realize it, but they're going to notice it as the days are progressing. And it'll be like that one moment like, well, you seem like you again. You seem better. You look like you're feeling better. I am feeling better. And you're going to start to realize just what was going on before and being able to communicate what had been bothering you, communicate all the issues that have been going on in the body, in your career, what this was leading to. Sometimes whenever we have been in a bad space for a while, we don't necessarily just how much our funk has affected everything else until we get out of the funk. And then we're like, holy crap, this house is a wreck. I'm 3 months behind on my paperwork. I haven't paid bills in 2 months. I forgot I had to pay things. And it's like, as the light bulb goes off, we start to awaken to the things that we've missed and having to work through them. Now, the one thing I will say about new medication and the fact that the Mars opposition to Saturn comes through very quickly after the new moon, the first medication might work for like a day or two, and then we might understand a reaction. Or we might have to alter, if it's like an herb, you might have to like trial and error for a few days, trying to figure out what's going to work for you. The other thing that this can lead into is, for some people, if you took something, again, an herb that you've never had before, then you could have a reaction. So I'm just trying to put all the different things in there. And again, this means having to deal with medicinal. It has to deal with other people. It has to deal with something else. You can also have an issue with travel. Be very, very mindful of travel, Cancer risings, especially towards the end of the week with Mars' opposition to Saturn in the 3rd and the 9th house. Not a great travel day, so no distracted driving. You can have difficulties when traveling. You can have difficulties in the road trip. You can have difficulties in the sense of like the flights aren't taking off. Maybe there's bad weather. It doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world, and you're delayed. But this delay has a chain effect that affects other areas. So there can be those things too. Okay. Moving this along. For Leos and Leo risings, this is a new moon in your 12th house. And I know you guys are really feeling this energy with Venus. I've seen a lot of Leo risings like doing things for attention, but not necessarily in the most positive forms of attention. And I feel like that was whenever Mars and Venus were very, very co-present. Now we're starting to get the message. We're starting to have certain decisions made that are impacting us as individuals, Leo risings. This new moon is in the 12th house of the unknown, the unseen, and endings. And it's going to oppose Pluto in the 6th. Throughout this week, we can have to face a very harsh reality from the past. This can be about our health. This can be about the health of another person. This can have to do with substance. I'm not going to lie about that with Leo risings. Neptune in the 8th makes me think of like secret addictions, secret vices. There can also be gambling addictions that kind of come around. We get a message over the weekend whenever Neptune was squaring the moon and in that sextile to Venus in the 1st. It's like having a friend tell you, oh, hey, I saw your husband at the casino Tuesday during the day. What do you mean you saw him at the casino? He should have been at work. He was at the casino. I totally seen him there. What? And as the moon goes through Cancer and we get closer to the new moon, we start to look for things that haven't necessarily been easily recognizable. Like we've been dealing with stuff we're not used to dealing with. We've been having a lot of things from the past. We've been having a lot of old memories getting triggered. We've been having a lot of things coming up. But we have to have something come through in these days that makes us see something differently. Neptune's square to the moon and that sextile to Venus can also have been somebody telling us or learning from a friend about another person and how their condition is. Learning from a coworker what's been going on in an area we don't necessarily understand. Learning from a friend that there is a potential affair going on. Neptune is in the 8th. The thing about this energy is that scandals can very much come to the surface. And Venus in your 1st house, about to go through a retrograde, a lot of Leo risings can have to deal with a scandal. They can have to deal with something nefarious. They can have to deal with something dark. Something having to do with other people's addictions, other people's vices, their own vices, and how they're affecting other people. When we get into Sunday and Monday, whenever Jupiter is squaring Mercury, whatever we learn during the Neptune square to the moon has a more tangible effect now. It's like learning at first that somebody else was having a rough time, your husband's been playing at the casino on Tuesday afternoons instead of actually being at work for whatever reason. And we want to know the truth. We want to know if this is real. We want to know what we don't know. So we spend a few days going through the bank statements. We spend a few days looking for the evidence before we talk to somebody and before we tell them. And the thing is whenever Jupiter squares Mercury, there can be a moment in that part of the energy that we get told one thing, but it doesn't sit right and it doesn't feel right, and it makes us overthink, and it makes us start to spin and start to turn a little bit manic and start to spiral and start to wonder, are you sure? Are you lying to me? Is there something else? Is there someone else? What is going on? Jupiter's square to Mercury at the first part of the week going into the new moon makes us really understand that there is something going on in the past. There is something coming back from the past. There is something that has been a secret from us. There has been something in regards to finances. Maybe there's been additional credit cards that you didn't know about. Maybe there is, again, that gambling debt. Maybe there is some other type of vice that you didn't quite know about. You didn't realize that that vice had turned into something so bad and so detrimental. And now there is this need to take on somebody else's care. There's something that we need to address in their health. There's something that is being brought to the surface that is going to make us address something in our own health. All these triggers from the past can make us have to face something in our own health. But Venus's retrograde is meant to be a facelift for Leo risings. However, part of the facelift means we have to clear something. We have to let something go. We have to clear something out. We have to recover. We have to heal. Part of this Venus retrograde is going to make Leo risings heal from something, overcome something from the past, revamp or reface something in regards to their public image, because Venus rules your 10th house of public image. Venus also rules your 3rd house of communication and short distance travel. What you can also find out is that some of the people that have been, telling you things is they haven't always told you the truth. You might be getting the idea in these few days, you might be getting the inkling or the message that somebody has been lying to you. Not just the sneaky and the vice aspect, but just straight out like they've been lying. Oh yeah, they said, I know they kept saying that they've got all the money that they can pay cash for this deal, but I'm telling you, they don't have the money. What? What do you mean? Well, Mars is in your 2nd. And it's going to hit an opposition to Saturn in the 8th. And there's going to be something this week that has to do with finances, your finances, somebody else's finances, something in somebody else's situation that disrupts your ability to work in your finances. And Jupiter's square to Mercury is telling you parts of that. It's solidifying parts of that. It's letting you know that you don't have all of the information. You don't have everything. You're learning that over the weekend going into this new moon. This new moon energy is activating certain aspects from the past that need to be dealt with. Your karma, other people's karma, those things need to be dealt with. You need to clear certain things in your karma so new things can come through with the Venus retrograde. You're meant to get a facelift. However, this facelift, it's taking over 4 months to do, okay? Venus was direct for a while. Now Venus is going to be retrograde. When Venus is retrograde, some of the promises that you made now need to be fulfilled. And there's going to be some communication that we're going to realize we overpromised and we're about to underdeliver. Okay. For Virgos and Virgo risings, I've been warning you. I've been warning you. I've been warning you. It is a very frustrating time for you guys. There are things going on that need to be closed out. Now, for some of you, this has been physical things. Physical things within relationship, physical things in regards to like legal matters. You have Saturn in your 7th right now. There can also be different things that are starting to impact your image and your ideas for the future and your goals for the future. While the moon is in Gemini and going through that square from Neptune that we had going into this weekend or going into Monday, this energy could have been like a mysterious, unexpected, not quite clear, not quite understanding why somebody else made a decision, but now it is impacting your future. Now it is impacting the way that you saw something, the way that you thought things were going to turn out. And in the days following that new moon, you're going to have to make a new connection. Now, some of you, it's not having to make a new connection. You will make a new connection. And it's going to enlighten you on how to get through this energy. Some of you are going to be taking on new levels with an existing connection. And there's going to be challenges. Parts of those challenges are going to get emphasized throughout the week as Mars hits this opposition to Saturn. You could know something from the past. You could get told somebody from the past is about to arrive at your door. That gets emphasized as Jupiter hits this square to Mercury. They're going to arrive at the door. They're going to come through. There's going to be a solidified moment, a solidified situation that again creates turmoil later on. Venus in the 12th is really starting to bring up a lot of things from the past. A lot of my Virgo risings, you guys have been dealing with old experiences in regards to religion, old tests in regard to your faith, old things coming up from your childhood, old traumas coming up from your moms, old things coming up from old relationships. We've had this energy of being triggered over and over and over again. And for some of you, isolation is the best answer. But isolation isn't easy for everybody. We have to go to work. We have to socialize in some aspect. Even if you decide you're not going to talk to anybody on your friends list, you deactivate all of your social media, you still got to go to the store. You still got to go to the gas station. You're still going to interact with somebody. So true isolation is not really an option for a lot of you. However, you're withdrawing more. You're being pushed to withdraw more. Maybe some of you haven't actually done the withdrawal yet, and you're still kind of poking at the bear. You're still trying to get certain things going. The thing about Mercury in Leo, it's your 12th house, but it's still Leo. We still do things for attention. The thing is, Mars is in the 1st, and Mars is about to hit that opposition to Saturn. That is going to occur as the Sun hits an opposition to Pluto. There can be too much poking of the bear, and it can come back to bite you. Whether that's in a physical form, again, as like somebody showing up at your house, or if that is in a verbal disagreement of arguing with somebody, telling somebody that you're getting triggered, telling somebody that you're not okay, whether you're arguing with an authority figure or a lawyer or a doctor or somebody in this regard, there is going to be tensions for Virgo risings. And the best way to get through parts of this week, I'm telling you, is going to be isolation. It is going to be the withdrawal. Some of you are already isolating. Some of you are already pulling back because you're getting hammered internally over and over again of all of these past emotions and all of these old fears and all of these old things. But the thing is, all of what is going on, whether it is in the physical sense or the internal sense, the spiritual sense, whatever way it's going, all of this is meant to lead to a level of transformation for you. So whether it's fears that are being triggered, whether it is the old traumas being triggered, whatever it is, all of this energy, not just during the new moon, but also in the weeks and months following, it is meant to make us face that fear and face that trauma, because overcoming that fear and overcoming that trauma and dealing with those wounds and dealing with those things, it is going to allow for us to transform a whole area of life. The nodes, when they change signs, are going to square Pluto. Pluto is in your 5th house. Love, romance, joy, happiness, children. Who rules Capricorn? Saturn. Where is Saturn? In your 7th house of relationships, in partnerships, in your commitments and connections to others. Saturn going through your 7th is a 2.5-year stint of leveling up your soul tribe, leveling up your commitments, leveling up your relationship pattern, your relationship partners. Because Neptune in your seventh for the last 12 years has been diluting the way that you see partnership and the way that you see marriage and the way that you see certain things. It has added an element where our picker has been off. Saturn is grounding that. Neptune still does well in this area because it is its sign, but Saturn is a reality check. He is grounding this area. And the thing about Virgo risings is, as much as you love the mystifying energy of the Pisces person, the ones that woo you with the poetry and the music and the sirens and the mermaids and da-da-da-da-da, you need something grounded and logical. Saturn is going to give you that, but you're not ready for what Saturn is going to offer you in this area. And that means we have to put pressure in another. Now, some of you have been in a relationship for a long time and it hasn't been the greatest. And since Saturn has entered your seventh, so since March, there have been constraints and there have been challenges and there have been frustrations and there have been things that are starting to make you think that this partner, this person isn't quite who we think they are. And we can become very tempted in the weeks ahead to do something we wouldn't normally do. Be mindful of scandals. Be mindful of affairs. Be mindful of starting a new friendship that can lead to something else. Because you're not in the best energy for that. Either it will come to the surface very, very quickly, or the person that you pick is not going to be honest. They are not going to be forthright. They are not going to be the person that you think they are. And you're going to learn that later, very quickly, whenever Mars hits that opposition to Saturn and the Sun hits that opposition to Pluto. You're either going to see your existing partner in a very different light, or you're going to look at the idea of a different romantic partner that might not be who you think they are. Not a great week for the scandals, not a great week for the new relationships, just to be clear. Okay. For Libras and Libra risings, this is a new moon in your 10th house of career and public image, your hopes and dreams to the future, where we're going next, where we're meant to shine in this world. Immediately following this new moon, the nodes are going to change signs, and the south node is going to go into the first. The north node is going to go into the seventh. Now, for Libra risings, I've already done a nodal video about what those nodes are going to represent for the next 18 months. And I do extremely suggest going and checking that out because I put a lot of emphasis in explaining what that south node in the first is going to mean for you. But as soon as those nodes change signs, they immediately start to apply pressure onto Pluto in your 4th house of home, home life, and family, roots, ancestry, mothers, matrons. What does who rules Capricorn? Saturn. Where is Saturn? In your 6th. Health, routine, work, how you care for yourself, how you care for other people. Mars is about to hit this opposition to Saturn, and there will be an unexpected disruption tied to an authority figure. There's going to be an unexpected interruption tied to an elder. This can lead to a loss. This can lead to a release and a purging. What are we releasing? Somebody else. Who's releasing us? Somebody else. Who's doing what? Somebody else. There's things that are going on that are going to impact the way that you see your friends in the weeks ahead. There is going to be things that are going on that it's going to make you recognize that certain people aren't meant for you. You're going to see the patterns of how people do things to their own detriment, and how their doing of other things to their detriment is starting to impact you. And there will start to, immediately following this new moon, be this energy of wanting to purge certain things. We want to purge them because we have an idea and a goal for where we're going in the future. Now, some of us have no idea where that is. And it's going to take some time for us to figure it out. So, knowing that we need to start something here, understand that if you don't have something in mind, then other people are going to. So let's talk about those transits leading up to the new moon. Neptune is also in that 6th house of health. And on Saturday morning, it's going to square the moon in the 9th. There can be something in regards to another person's health that means going to the hospital. It's like getting that call unexpectedly that somebody is in the hospital, that somebody is not feeling well, that somebody is having an issue with their feet, that somebody's having an issue with fluid in the body. And it is going to lead to something else being impacted. Jupiter is in your 8th house, squaring Mercury in your 11th. There can also be things in regards to work. We can have an opportunity talking to an authority figure, seeing a new opportunity in a new job, completely different in a different field and everything, that will impact our income. And it's going to impact the way that we talk to certain people, the way that we network with certain people. There is an impact towards making adjustments and changes in the finances and with our clients, with our friends, with the people we like to do business with, the ones that we choose to do business with. Some of us are going to realize those friends are only there when they need you. When you're paying for something, when you're covering something, when you're doing something for somebody else, and that's going to start to make you think, oh, I don't need this person. I'm not doing that again. Some of us, if this is having to do with health, Jupiter is in that 8th house. This is a death house. That's not going to be easy. We can get the window and the timeline of somebody else's health issue. Oh, well, this is spread further than what we thought. And once we did the scans, once we did the x-rays, once we did this is further than what we thought it was. And it might impact the way that we are working, the way that we are caring for ourselves, the things that we are doing, because we need to make an adjustment now to care for this person. They only have so much more time. We have to make this adjustment. We have to help. We have to change something. We have to let something go. We have to let someone go. But there's going to be a hospice timeline. What you see over the course of this Venus retrograde is going to shift your perspective. You're going to transform in your own way, but this transformation is meant to regain certain hopes. Many of the Libra risings, where you have been stuck for so long, looking at only one way of doing things, only wanting to succeed in one area, the universe is going to open the window for you to see other avenues, other areas, your actual calling. Mercury rules your 9th house. That is higher learning. That is higher education. That is your higher calling. That can also have to do with institutions. Having the ruler of the 9th in the 11th means having a little bit more emphasis on who that would be in that institution. So I've said this to people before, like if you go get lab work done, it doesn't matter who the tech is because we're doing it with that institution. The results have to go from here through the institution to the doctor to come back around. So that's why I bring up institutions with the 9th house. Having that ruler in the 11th can mean one industry, one institution, one area is now got a face to it. There's now a name. There's a face to the name. So it's not just going and talking to whatever lab tech is there, but it's making a continuous effort to always talk to this one nurse, this one doctor, this one person, or this select group, because it is 11th house, that can be a part of this energy. This is going to be very interesting on a soul level for Libra risings in the energy following the new moon. Because the thing about having the nodes change, I didn't say this in the nodal video, I'm actually thinking about this right now. We will have 2 new moons in Cancer while the nodes are going through these signs. So you don't get to just boom, bing, here you go, here's your new career path. What you get is the first inclination in where your next chapter in career can go, and the way that you connect with people can go moving forward. This starts the 18-month cycle. This starts a new career path option for you. And this is not going to be the way that you have previously seen yourself. Because having the South Node for the next 18 months going through the first means parts of your identity is going to fall away. The parts of your identity that no longer serve you. So there's going to be a whole different energy that will follow this new moon that is much, much bigger than just the new moon. Okay. Moving this along, we're going to get the ascendant into Scorpio. So for Scorpio and Scorpio risings, we have a new moon in the 9th house. Long distance, higher education, higher learning, higher calling, how you connect to your higher self, how you connect to your guru, how you connect to your ancestors and to God and everything else like this. This is a new moon in this area. This new moon is coinciding with the nodes going into the 6th and the 12th. Many Scorpio risings have had an 18-month cycle of learning how to let things go and purge things and get things away from them. Both of the rulers of Scorpio are in the earth signs. Very, very grounded. Many of you are going to see how your words are starting to transform other people. How your words and your energy is starting to transform your clients, how it's transforming your career, how it's transforming your public image, how important it is to other people. We're getting inklings as to what our calling is, where we're going next. Some of you are going to be getting disruptive energy from distance. Now, this doesn't have to be specific to the new moon. This can actually have to do with in the energy in the weeks after the week after the new moon. You can be getting that call from a sibling that is a long distance away. Pluto's in the 3rd. The new moon's going to be in the 9th. You can be feeling just how powerful recent decisions and communications and recent things that have been expressed are impacting people on a whole other level. And in many ways, this is going to give you a very profound idea of what that North Node in the 6th is going to be like for you. Having that Venus retrograde in the 10th house of career while having the South Node going through the 12th is going to allow for you to, one, close out a lot of things from the past, close out cycles, close out old relationships, close out certain things in regards to karma and karmic contracts. But we are also going to see an activation in regards to how we help, how we teach, and how we guide, because the 9th house is an educational house too. How we are teaching and guiding others on their path, in their life, in their career. And as you are starting to see these new things on your path, this new area in your calling, you see the turnaround in other people. People that have been skeptical are going to have more faith. People that have not made sense to you in the past will suddenly make more sense because they're going to reveal more things to you. In the days leading up to this, Neptune square to the moon in Gemini, because that's what's occurring on Saturday morning going into this, and Saturday morning, so the weekend going into Monday, I apologize. Neptune squared to Mercury can be that flooding of the senses. It can be the nostalgia thing. It can be a romanticized energy. Neptune is retrograde. It can be a past nostalgia. Obviously, past nostalgia. A past romantic energy. A past thing from your childhood. Something in regards to the past coming back around and imposing how somebody else has dealt with it. How you have dealt with love in the past versus how somebody else is dealing with an affair. The moon in the 8th house can represent the affair energy. Considering how afterwards Mercury is going to enter that square from Jupiter in the earlier parts of Monday. This can be another person singing your praises in regards to career. This can be a multitude of other people talking about how you have helped them, what you have done for them. This can be that attaboy, that pat on the back. For others, Neptune's square to Mercury, Neptune square to the moon in Mercury's sign, leading into the new moon can be that flooding of the senses for somebody, and we start to see the first inklings of a transformation, the first inklings of a decline, the first inklings of healing, the first inklings of recovery, transforming, coming back around, coming out of the fog, breaking free of something. And then later on, going into the new moon, you realize the relief in how this can be helpful for more than just one person, but how it can be helpful for multiple people. How you can do this again, how this can be a part of your journey, how you can incorporate this energy to more than just where it's been. There's something in our words, something in our message that is going to have pivotal effects to the people around us. But later in this week, when that Mars opposition to Saturn hits, there's going to be frustrations. There's going to be tension. There's going to be arguments. There's going to be friends dealing with situations around their kids. There's going to be friends that are starting to have a fight with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, your significant other. There is going to be your significant other telling your friend to get out. You're not welcome here anymore. You're not going to be a part of this anymore. You're not with us anymore. In some ways, we can actually just tell a friend or tell a lover that they're only going to be our friend. Like, I think we're just better off being friends. What? I think we're better off just being friends. And that turnaround isn't necessarily the turnaround that you're going to go through with the Venus retrograde, but it's now seeing their energy turnaround, how they start to view you differently, how they start to do things with you differently, how they are going to impact you differently. Some people can't handle rejection, and there will be a turnaround in those that are rejected. Mercury square to Jupiter could literally be telling Jupiter, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for a commitment. I don't want to get married. I don't want to do this. I just want to have fun for a little bit. I've been in a committed relationship for a long time. That Saturn Uranus square, for a lot of us, it cleared out. It cleared some things out. It made some space. And some of us might go through this week doing exactly that. Telling somebody, nope, I'm going to be single. Nope, I'm not doing this anymore. Nope, I'm not friends with that person. Nope, I don't work there anymore. Not doing that, because we're changing something in our image. And we're moving towards something in our higher calling. We're moving towards a new beginning in this area over the next month. Your words are so important this next week. Not reacting emotionally is going to be big. And Given that Scorpio risings, both of your chart rulers are in the earth signs, you're not going to be as emotional as some of the other signs. Are you still going to feel the pressure? Are you still going to be dealing with the situation? Are you still going to see the turnaround in other people and the spinning effect and the manic and the spiraling? Yes. But your ability to control yourself, recognizing the patterns of transformation and all of the things that go with that, they're going to be incredibly helpful to getting people through the change and the shift and the tests and the frustrations and the things that come through in the purging. You have the ability to guide people. And the next few weeks following the new moon, your words are so important. Okay. For Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, we are looking at the new moon in the 8th house. This is going to be finances, but shared finances. Finances tied to another people. This is taking on additional debt. This is dealing with taxes. This is dealing with some type of shared finance. It could also be child support. There is like that very first payment, alimony payment, something like this, something that is going to allow for fear around money to be alleviated. It's getting that first stipend. It's getting that first paycheck. It's getting that first... I'm still going to go with alimony for some reason. There have been so many changes for Sagittarius risings, and they all really go back to that Mars retrograde in your guys' 7th house, like the things that it did to your relationships, the things that it did to your partnerships, the things that it has brought into your family and into your home life are so different and so big. And there has been a lot of things going on. The new moon in the 8th house can also be the start of a transformation. And I do like that for Sagittarius risings. Now, we're about to go into that Venus retrograde. It is in your 9th house. Some of you are going to go from a highly religious mindset. We only believe in the Bible. We only believe in this way of thinking. We only read the, is it the Kabbalah? Is that what it's called? You know where I'm going with that. The other book. We only follow this one faith, but based off of another person or based off of recent situations, based off of the things that have been speaking to your soul, you're starting to venture out. You're starting to get a little bit more curious. You're starting to look at new things. This Venus retrograde can literally show you a different avenue in your faith. It can be a new chapter in your spirituality. It can be a new chapter in your religious connection. It can be a new way for you to reach higher source. There can also be student loans. New moon in the 8th, it can be student loans. We can be taking on and signing the dotted lines for that fall enrollment. Whether it's yours or one of the kids, doesn't matter. There can be this can be the most mundane way of having to do it. And then it's just like, we've signed all the paperwork. Now we have to move them to the dorm. Now we have to do all of those things. And that can all be the stuff that we deal in that Venus retrograde, especially if somebody's going a long distance away for school, like they're going to another state, or they're like, you're at the top north corner and they're going to be at the central or the south area and they're still like 5 hours away. So they're still like a long distance move. We can be looking at signing those dotted lines, signing that lease, signing something right here for a family member because they're about to go to college. And the next month is literally just getting them prepped for that. Not everybody's going to be having a religious experience. Many of you are, though, and many of you, that religious and spiritual growth is going to allow for a lot of transformations in yourself, in the way that you see yourself, in the way that you care for yourself, in the way that you're caring for other people, because your chart ruler, Jupiter, is in your 6th house of health, and how you care for yourself and how you care for other people. Jupiter's associated signs are the 12th and the 9th. This is a Venus retrograde that's going to be in the 9th. this new moon in the 8th is like a trigger of transformation. Overcoming fear, whether that fear is financial, whether that fear is having to do with your assets or something from the past, whether that fear has been tied to work, whether that fear has been tied to your faith, or whether it is your faith that is helping overcome that fear and letting go of the past and allowing certain healing to come through. For those of you that are about to do the spiritual journey, that are going to go from the book-based religion to a more nature-based, faith-based, spiritual-based, what you're going to find is that you're going to have some friends fall away from you. There's going to be some people that are not going to be a part of your journey. That's okay. That's okay, because the South Node going through your 11th is going to release and purge and clear some of the people that are not meant for you. On the flip side, you're going to have the North Node going through your 5th house of love and romance and joy and happiness and children. Happiness, luck. The more in tune you are with yourself and your higher self and your calling, Venus retrograde in the 9th, the happier you're going to be. The more that you allow for certain things to come to the surface and purge, and the more that you allow for certain things to heal, the more you're going to see your inner child coming back. The more you're going to see the turnaround in your kids and how they're doing and how they're dealing with things. Some of you are literally just about to have kids. And this Venus retrograde in the 9th is all about dealing with the doctors and going to doctor's appointments and learning why you need an OBGYN, why there's so many different forms of medicine, and how many different trips and things to the doctor, and the not MRI, what's this one? Ultrasounds. Too many words. You're going to be experiencing those differently. You're going to have potentially, I hate to say this part, complications that make you go in there more. Maybe there's things in your diet. The last thing we ever wanted to see is like babies with like gestational diabetes. So there can be things that start to come through in your health and in your way of doing things and in your routine that has to, be altered a little bit because of the new thing that's going to come through. Having the nodes go through the 5th and the 11th, I've seen this a lot of times where either people get pregnant or they're about to have a child. Okay. Moving this along, we're going to get to Capricorns and Capricorn risings. Babies, this is going to be a new moon in your 7th house of relationships and partnerships. This new moon immediately has the nodes going into your 10th house of career and public image, your hopes and dreams for the future, while the North Node is going into your 4th house of home life, and family. And immediately they're going to square Pluto in the 1st. They're squaring you. They're squaring you. In the days leading up to this new moon, whenever Neptune hits that square to the moon in Mercury sign, so hits that square in Gemini, some of you can be doing something very nostalgic. Some of you can be dealing with certain decisions that have impacted your health. Having Neptune square the moon in this placement can mean like you had a little too much fun Friday night and then Saturday morning you kind of wake up a little hungover. And maybe this hangover is a little bit worse than normal. And I'm saying it because the moon is going to be in your 6th house of health. This is very much like dealing with something that impacts the health. And now I bring this up in particular for Capricorn risings because remember where that Mars retrograde was. It was in your 6th house of health. Mars is now back in a Mercury sign. It's not the same one, but it's still in a mercurial sign. So certain elements can be reactivated during that square, that Neptune square to the moon. If you had things last fall that was around your health, whether it was around surgery, going to doctors, actually having health issues, they can start to get reactivated. Neptune squaring the moon can be trying to explain to somebody how we're feeling. I'm fatigued. I don't feel well. I'm nauseated. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what's going on. Okay, well, if you keep feeling bad, if you're still feeling this way tomorrow, if it's not getting any better, I'm going to call the doctor. This can be one way. And not only do you end up with going to the doctor, but like you end up with a new doctor. Like that might lead you to referrals going, okay, we need to go to a specialist. We need to go over here. They need to go to the emergency room right now. This can be parts of that. Some of you have something going on in your health during these days that is going to get revealed. And it's going to result in having to deal with additional doctor's visits and additional talks with certain institutions and additional connections that have to be made. Some of you, this is going to result in an actual relationship. And now with Capricorn risings, I need you guys to be very, very aware that we're going into a Venus retrograde. Temporary energy. This can be a fling energy, something that prepares you for something that's going to be bigger later on. This can be something that isn't going to be the long term. And if you know that going into, that makes it easier to deal with. Now, why do I say that? Neptune is going to square the moon in Mercury's sign, but then the next day and so Sunday going into Monday, going into the new moon. So the Neptune square the moon in Gemini, that happens on Saturday morning. The square between Jupiter and Mercury starts on Sunday, but it perfects on Monday. I said that at the beginning, but I keep reiterating it for people that skip. So if that is the case, what we can deal with is that we get a glimpse of somebody because, we're working. And we run into somebody and that feeling, like you catch eyes with somebody and it's just a little bit different, but you can't even talk to them. You can't get over there to them. Like it just, there's some type of an obstruction, but later on that day, you come back to let's say it's the grocery store or the gas station or something like that. That person's still working, or it's the next day and that person's still working. You're like, oh my God, hey, didn't I see you over there? Didn't I see you at the grocery store? Didn't I see you at the car wash? Like, oh yeah, I was there yesterday. And you pick up a conversation. One part of the conversation might not actually happen until the new moon, because you have to run back into them. You re-encounter them. You come around the corner and you find somebody. And once the solid communication happens, that's going to be closer to the square of Jupiter and Mercury. Jupiter is in your 5th house of love and romance, happiness, joy, and children, squaring Mercury in the 8th. You might not tell everybody who you're talking to. It's not a bad thing. You might meet somebody over the weekend and it's all work related. Neptune square to the moon in Gemini can be, trying to troubleshoot some issue for somebody, trying to work through something that's impacting their home life. And this one person results in a whole slew of new partnerships and new connections. They refer you out. I love these types of people that once they really get that good experience of being taken care of, or they're getting that good experience of like readings, or they went through like the greatest experience because they went on this vacation and they start actually telling everybody about it. This can be that type of energy too. Like you did such a good job helping somebody, you did such great work helping somebody, that they start to sing your praises. And as they sing your praises, they start to bring you more business. That would be Jupiter square to Mercury. Now, if you fluffed off, you might fluff off on the wrong person this weekend, and Jupiter square to Mercury is going to make you realize you fluffed off, that you didn't do things correctly. And that Venus retrograde going back over the 8th house of health the 8th house of finances, other people's finances, share finances, how you make money from other people, can mean going back over your habits and your traits to deal with this and try to get your money things back in order. Some of you, the money things are in order. You've already been doing all the things, you've been communicating, you've been branding, and it's going to be the more positive outlook. This new moon in the 7th that will incur with the nodes squaring Pluto means this new person coming through leads to you transforming, leads to you leveling up. The Venus retrograde is going to be in your 8th house. This can be an affair house, it can be a sexual house, it can be a fling, romance type energy. I'm being very clear about that, but it can also be a transformation. For Capricorn risings, having those nodes square Pluto in the 1st, you can be dealing with something in your own health that needs to be overcome. You can be dealing with somebody else's health issues that make you realize you have to make a change in your own. You can be meeting somebody that is so phenomenal as a person that you feel like you have no other choice but to level up, but to work harder, but to do better, change old habits and do things differently so the newer, better version of you can come through. The 8th house Venus retrograde can also later on lead to loss. Loss of family members, loss of another person. It is a death house. And for some Capricorn risings, that's not going to be an easy thing to deal with. And again, the pressures of the North Node, South Node onto Pluto can literally mean the pressure based off of the loss of someone else. And the new moon in the 7th can be the legal aspects of what that represents, of what needs to be done in this area, of who this is going to affect. Okay. Oh, for Aquarius and Aquarius risings, we are looking at a new moon in your 6th house. How you care for yourself, how you care for other people, what you need to be doing differently in your routine. Now, going into this timeline, Neptune, Saturday morning, Neptune squares the moon in Gemini, in Mercury's sign. There is something that you're getting filled in on, and this can have to do with kids, this can have to do with like a romantic partner. There can be something going on that you're not anticipating. I need you to do this for the kids. I need you to pick the kids up on Monday. I need you to take them to summer camp. I need you to do something else. And you're like, what? Why do I have to do it? Because I'm starting the new job. Because I have to work extra. Because I'm going out of town, Goofy. Did you forget? Sometimes we're just dealing with Goofy. And we're starting to activate an energy after this new moon where communication is going to be very important for Aquarius risings. The North Node going into that 3rd house, communication, very important for you guys, because sometimes, even though you're an air sign, you're stuck in your own head and you don't communicate the way you think you do. And somebody's about to tell you that. There can be an adjustment in a partner that is immediately affecting your routine and how you care for yourself and how you care for the kids. And it's going to make you have to even go back and do things over again, do things from the past. It's making you relearn certain things. If you are having to give space to a partner because they need to do what they need to do, a lot of that's going to be happening. And if it hasn't already been a part of the conversation, this is kind of the timeline where we have that final conversation about it. That meaning Jupiter's square to Mercury. Like, I got the house, I'll take care of this, go do what you need to do. Well, the kids do this, and they have swim class here, and they have soccer practice, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I got it. Do you really got it? Probably not. I really just got a image of like Mr. Mom, the 80s movie of Tom Hanks. Like, I just kind of got an image of that going, I've got it. And now the woman has to go, she goes off to her job and he starts, learning some things the hard way. That's going to be a part of this energy too. We start unlearning things to learn new ones. Sometimes that we have to learn those new things and learn to communicate better and take on different ideas of how we deal with things because technology has updated. Something doesn't quite work anymore. Sometimes the things that come out of our mouth, they're not exactly PC. And we have to unlearn some things to learn new things. Having the nodes go through the 3rd and the 9th are going to be a part of that. Having Pluto going back in the 12th, in that pressurized area that's going to pick up after the new moon, can mean the more you have to do in this area of work means releasing more and more old ways of doing things, old mindsets, old patterns. Now, this is also a new moon in the 6th house of health. And many Aquarius risings can also have to see other people in health and what they're dealing with. Maybe not just necessarily your own, but the health of another person, the health of an elder, the health of somebody that we've highly regarded and respected. The health of solar figures, so fathers. This can be an energy where we have to deal with a health scare, health issues, uncovering things that we didn't know were there. There can be something that makes us deal with this. That new moon in the 6th house can be very triggering for some in a positive way, in the Mr. Mom type of way. But then in the other ways, it can also have to do with health, routine, recovery, healing. And so much of this energy for Aquarius risings is about being support. Sacrificing parts of yourself, sacrificing parts of where you're at, because we're doing so much regarding another person. This Venus retrograde is going to be in your 7th house. It has to do with other people. You are going to be the support. In many ways, the support that you are providing can be financial. Your chart ruler, Saturn, that chart ruler, one of them, it's in the 2nd house of money. The other chart ruler, Uranus, is in that 4th house of home life, family, roots, and ancestry. Who rules your 4th house? Venus. Where's Venus? In a retrograde in your 7th. About to be. It's not quite yet at the new moon. We're getting there. So, again, we can have something connected to a partner that's going to make us change our routine and unlearn ways of doing things, realizing communication is going to be very important. We can have something financial pop up that is going to cost us more money. Then we can also have things that are going to be changing in our routine around the kids based off of a partner, based off of what the family needs. And so much of this energy, whenever it comes to Aquarius risings, you guys are the support. You are helping other people. You are part of the turnaround, but you are the support. Okay. For Pisces and Pisces rising, this is a new moon in your 5th house of love, romance, joy, happiness, children. Mars is now in your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, legal matters, obligations, other people in general, anybody and everybody else. That's where Mars is at. For some Pisces risings, there can be a new beginning for your home life and for family, a new beginning in your routine. There can be something new that comes to the surface around your childhood, around your children, around a love connection, around a partner or a partnership. There can be a actual romantic connection that comes back through. There can be the potential of a friend turning into a love interest, but this is potential and it's not going to be something that's going to be super quick. Mars going through that 7th house of relationships and legal matters. Some of you guys are literally going to have to be the harsh reality to another person, because Saturn is in your first, and when Mars hits that opposition later in the week following this new moon, this is going to be telling somebody a very harsh reality. This is going to be being in a courtroom and seeing how somebody's actions start to impact you, the things that come out of their mouth. What are they trying to deal with? What's coming back around? It's having to do with kids, your kids or their kids, having to deal with this legal matter. The reason I'm saying that is because right after this new moon in your 5th house of children, the nodes are going to square the 11th house. It's going to square Pluto in the 11th house. The 1st house is you. The 5th house is your children. The 7th house is everybody else. The 11th house is their children. There can be things that come through in regards to if you're starting to bring your partner around your kids, that maybe the kids don't get along. His kids don't get along with your kids don't get along with his kids, or maybe your kids don't get along with him or her, whatever the situation is. And there can be frustrations and there can be moments of tension, and it can take time to work through, and it might not be an easy thing to work through. Some of you might have things going on in regards to a love interest that starts to turn. Like you've been in a relationship for a while, but now you're seeing the disruption. Now you're seeing chaotic energy. Now you're seeing their shifting and their turn. Maybe you're seeing the manic energy tied to Venus. Even though Venus is in your 6th house, that doesn't mean that you won't start to see how this is impacting other people's health. Now, the fact that this Venus retrograde will be in your 6th house of health, you can start to feel something in your health turn. This can have to do with the things that Venus rules. So your mouth, the senses, so going like smells, your thyroid, all of these things where you actually taste and take pleasure from food. This is all going to be very much Venus related. There can be something in the diet. So you'll hear me say things like blood sugar. Venus also rules reproductive health, things tied to feminine reproductive health. So your ovaries and your uterus and things like this, the things that bring life. Venus is going to be retrograde in that 6th house, but this is coinciding with a new moon in the 5th house. There can be something in the reproductive health that is being impacted. Going to the doctor is not going to be a bad idea. Going to get that level of female checkup is not going to be a bad idea. Some of you, if you're going through actual pregnancies and you're dealing with actual energy tied to pregnancies, what you can start to see is the increase in the doctor's visits, or having to get doctors, having to go to new doctors. Some of you, this is going to be a turnaround in work. How you've been caring for yourself, how you're caring for other people, and there might be an adjustment and a change in your work, in the way that you care for yourself, in how you care for other people, based off of the Venus retrograde. And the new moon is a reflection of a shift in your luck. That can be both good and bad. You can also see something change with a romantic partner and their health, and I can't stress that one enough. Whether it's a good change and they're starting to come back through and they're starting to make a turnaround, they start to do different things in their health and in their routine, but it ends up impacting your partnership somehow. There are things that are tied to this new moon that are going to be more than just the new moon. Okay. Taking this down. So, knowing that going into this energy, there are things from this weekend that are leading into the new moon, that are giving foreshadowing, that are giving the precursor to what starts in the new moon. There will be seeds planted this weekend. There will be the foreshadowing. There will be things that let us know just where it's at. Some of us were seeing or we're hearing somebody talk about what's flaring up in their body, and we realize that it's going to lead us in another direction. It's going to lead us into the doctor's office. It's going to lead us into the hospital. Some of us have just had something in regards to a legal matter pop up. And you know, if it's relating into divorce or anything along these lines, like, okay, then I need to get an attorney. And that's going to be a part of the turnaround. And that's going to be a part of the new moon. And once the attorney gets involved and they start to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and all these things that are coming through, you're like, this is so much bigger than I thought. I needed the attorney. I needed this guidance. I needed this situation. For some of you, we've had a much grander idea in mind. We had a much grander scheme as to how all of this was going to go through. And now we're getting humbled, either in the energy of the new moon or in the energy following the new moon. We're getting humbled because a revelation is going to come through. There was something clouding the situation, clouding the conversation, clouding the topics at hand that will become unclouded in the days following. But around the new moon, we can still be very clouded and very delusional and not quite on page with everybody else. Not quite up to speed. This week, it's not just the new moon's energy, it's all the other transits involved. The new moon is a stepping stone. It's one part of an anthill. It's one event to a major week. But it starts a lot of the pressurized spinning energy. And the reason I say that is right after the new moon perfects, again, the nodes are going to change signs and they're going to square Pluto. And they're going to square whatever Capricorn rules in your chart. Simultaneously, we're going to have Venus enter that 28-degree mark where it's going to remain for 2 weeks. So we'll have pressure from the nodes onto Pluto that's going to last for 3.5 weeks. And we're going to have the spinning, spiraling, manic, confused, unable to focus energy of Venus. And there's not a whole lot of people that's not dealing with at least one of those. So no matter how we look at it, how you're going to cut it out, there's pressure in these areas. And then the additional transits that are going to follow are going to have more information. They're going to have more revelation. They're going to put more things in perspective. And for a lot of us, we're going to have to face a very, very harsh reality in the week following this new moon. Listen to the week ahead forecast video just as much as this new moon. The new moon is meant to isolate, this video is meant to isolate the energies tied specific to the new moon, what's leading up to it, but also telling you what to expect as individuals based off your rising sign. But go listen to that week ahead video because you're going to see the bigger aspects at play, and you're going to see the method and the chain effect. That's the words I'm trying to use now. I'm so sorry. We're going to start to see the chain effect of how those transits are going to result in something. There will be something that we see in this new moon or in the days up to this moon in one way that once we get to the end of the week and once we get to the start of Leo season and we get to the start of that Venus retrograde, once we get to that part, some area, no matter how big or how small, some area is going to be flipped upside down. We have one way of seeing the energy tied to this new moon, but we will very quickly see another area. It will very quickly transform in front of us. It will grow into something bigger. It will become a challenge. It will become something larger than what we're anticipating. We have one way of thinking next week's going to go, but we have a whole other way it's going to result in. So, I hope this is helpful. I'm going to get this uploaded as soon as I'm done with the video editing. So I hope this helps everybody, having both the new moon video and the nodes video and the week ahead video, because all three of those speak to one another. They're going to speak to a lot of the energies that we're going into. They're going to speak to a lot of the things that we're about to deal with. So hit me up with questions, hit me up with concerns. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for all of the support. Thank you for the people that have been sharing these videos, whether it's been through Spotify or it's been on Facebook or YouTube, however you've been doing it. I appreciate the love and the support. I appreciate all the new people that have been coming through. Thank you for trusting me, and I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.